Three, two, one. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sea Brigade podcast, episode 8.
The last one. For now.
Right. Yeah. You know that we've already done a episode 8 reaction podcast, but this is the one we're going to go through and read a lot of emails and kind of go point by point and kind of just reflect on season 2 as a whole. Right? So, okay. I'm going to say we're going to start with some emails.
Cool.
Just because I like those. This one comes from Maurice in Montreal, Canada.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could be Morris also.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's either Morris or Maurice.
Biggio is the last name. Which is pretty cool.
I'm gonna guess it's probably Morris, but
okay. So Morris writes, "Hello there. Sorry the season and the podcast is over, but I have one of many questions. I know for the purposes of the story, no one wants to relive another trial, but surely there are serious grounds to appeal the verdict based on the fact that the judge erred in throwing out Joe's confession. He confessed before Ellie attacked him. How the confession stood, I firmly believe no jury would have found him not guilty. Your thoughts? Also, do you think there will be a season 3? So, at the end of the episode, I think some people probably stopped before they saw this, but Broadchurch will return for a series 3.
Holla.
And ITV confirmed that, yes, David Tennant and Olivia Colman are coming back, so no need to worry. Which means the Sea Brigade will return at some point.
Hey.
Or return in its format. I don't think there are any plans for me to stop podcasting, but we will again one day podcast about Broadchurch. So,
which is exciting.
About the confession, the reason it got thrown out was because Sharon's argument was there's no way to prove that Joe wasn't beaten before the confession, and then Ellie's attack was staged so that it happened afterward. Like, there's no way to, like, it's an all right argument, to be honest. You know?
Yeah, it's
like,
not bad.
Like, Alec Hardy was on his own when he arrested Joe Miller, so there's no saying that he didn't, beat him right there.
Right, and I think one of the points that we brought up in last episode, the season 7, episode 7 podcast was...
You're doing it too.
Yeah, I know. It's catching. The podcast we did about episode 7, I think I mentioned something about how, to an outsider's perspective, this case must look super suspicious. And I doubt that they would trust the police. If this was just a case we were reading about in a newspaper, would we trust these people? I tend to think no.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's really it for the why the confession was thrown out. Our next email comes from Jasmine from, from Seattle, Washington. That's cool.
Hello, Jasmine.
Jasmine writes, I just wanted to say thanks for putting out a Broadchurch podcast, and a good one to boot, especially since they're the only one I found at the time. Finding a complimentary podcast has become my new normal while digesting my dose of television, post-Breaking Bad and True Detective, since I've found the recap discussions so insightful. Yeah, and that's exactly why I started this. Like, every show I love, I kind of go looking for a podcast.
Same.
Game of Thrones, I have 2 podcasts for. So, my super brief post-Series 2 takeaways. 1. Hardy and Miller are my current favorite detective odd couple, maybe tied with Cormoran Strike / Robin Ellicott of J.K. Rowling's detective novels. I haven't read those. That's cool.
I have them, and I've just never read them. My dad read them, though, and liked them very much.
Her second point is Joe Miller being ostracized is fitting and worse for him than prison, given the verdict. I think there could be a point there. This is truly the golden age for podcasting, and I hope you guys stick around. Looking forward to a Broadchurch Series 3. Maybe you guys can do a rewatch of Series 1 in the off-season. Anyways, Here we go. Cheers, Jasmine. Oh, P.S. You guys are the first TV pod I felt that compelled to write into, so there's also that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Yeah, I was going to try to save it for news, but there are totally plans to do a Series 1 podcast. I wouldn't expect it next week. Since there's a plan to rope in someone else from our hometown into doing a Sea Brigade podcast. So we'll see if that happens. But in the meantime, I'm thinking about doing a Twin Peaks episode. And Emily, if you'd like to watch the first episode of Twin Peaks, it's kind of like a movie, the first episode. So, it's a small town murder. It has some similarities to Broadchurch, and I think the people who like Broadchurch but have never seen Twin Peaks, I think they might enjoy it, especially since Twin Peaks is coming back in 2016, so that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a show that I want to watch, and I will definitely check out the first episode. I hope that I have the time in order to podcast.
Yeah.
Continue podcasting, but Twin Peaks is definitely a show that I want to watch.
Yeah, the other things I've been thinking about is maybe watching The Escape Artist, which is a 3-part miniseries where David Tennant is a barrister or a solicitor, which I'd like to watch. And yeah, eventually we're definitely going to get to series 1 for Broadchurch, because that's just important for a podcast legacy. If someone watches series 1 and they want a Broadchurch podcast and they see that one exists but they only did season 2, it's a little bit weird. So for legacy's sake, we're definitely going to do series 1 at some point. This next email comes from Tanisha, who wrote in for episode 7. Tanisha writes, I just got done watching this finale episode. I just got done watching the finale episode, and I thought it was amazing. It was everything I hoped it to be, and so much more. I had theorized that Mark or someone else in the town would seek vigilante justice if Joe walked free, so watching him be dragged out of the church while screaming for Paul's help made me cringe. It was the first time this season I actually felt sorry for Joe and disappointed in Paul, who I truly believed had turned to the dark side. The whole thing turning out to be a banishment was a welcome surprise and shows growth in the townspeople. They were murderous in season 1 when they thought Jack Marshall was the killer, so it's nice to see them rise above it. As for the Sandbrook case, the resolution felt like something out of an Agatha Christie novel. They all did it, except for the mother. I really felt for Pippa. She had to be feeling terrified knowing that something bad had happened to Lisa, and rightfully thinking she was next. All in all, I'm satisfied with the way things turned out. I'm looking forward to a 3rd season, assuming we get one. I'm off to listen to your reaction episode now, Tanisha. So thank you.
Tanisha's awesome.
Yeah, first person to write in, and it was like truly appreciating that that feedback. And
yeah, I love the point that she made about the way in which the town has progressed. The verdict didn't come out the way that they wanted it to, but the way they went after Jack Marshall last season and the way that they handled Joe, like as Beth said, they get to live and they get to be the better person. Yeah,
thematic readings of the show are really interesting, and I'm really glad that people chime in to give us these alternate, or not even, I'd say alternate, but just like to point out things that I'm not exactly thinking about, like how Broadchurch as a town evolves instead of like specific characters, where it's like, I write this down in my notes, but I was thinking like, oh, why is Becca at the banishment? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It shows some amount of like, we're moving on. Like, Becca could be good enough to just be there quietly watching the banishment without,
Yeah.
This email comes from Naomi, who wrote in last week.
Oh, hey, Naomi.
Thanks for the mention. You see, we do listen to you here in the UK. So this season 2 gave me mixed feelings. For the first couple of episodes this season, I, like many others, was disappointed in the direction with how the show was going. I had got to know the characters in Broadchurch. I wanted to carry on, the show just being about them. I didn't even know or care about how these new people were coming in and spoiling the show that I love. It seemed ridiculous storylines with characters I didn't like, especially Claire. But as the first season was so good, I knew that if the same writers were writing this season, then I should have faith in them and they'll make it right in the end. So I stuck with it, and I was very pleased that I did, as I now realize that the show needed the new characters in order for the story to grow and move on as they became an integral part of the show. I guess they wrapped up almost all the loose ends just in the case they didn't get at season 3, but this now gives them a clean slate for a new story in a new location, which I'm looking forward to. Pity, though, there would be no more shots of Lee hammering in fence posts in his vest. Winky face. Thanks to both of you for taking time to make these podcasts. We do appreciate them, and they add greatly to the enjoyment of the show. See you next time. Naomi, Yorkshire, England.
Yes, correct. Yorkshire.
Yeah. I have to say, I I think the way the new characters that were introduced I think their arcs are good because...
Yes. I loved Jocelyn. I really do.
Jocelyn's arc in particular is something I write about in the notes for the show. It's just how she is a character who is isolated. Mm-hmm. She could have died in that hut, separated from the rest of the world, but when she comes back into the world, she finds happiness and hurt and, a new range of emotions. So Jocelyn in particular is just so great. This next email comes from someone new, David. It's David from the UK. Does he give a location? Oh, David from Southampton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know a friend in Southampton. the original Naomi. Hello, Ken and Emily. Ken, I hope you are feeling better this week. You did sound pretty rough in recent podcast. Talking of how you sound, your voice reminds me of the writer Bill Bryson, who was born and brought up in Des Moines, Iowa.
Des Moines?
Des Moines?
Yeah.
Are you from around those parts? Or do I have a tin ear for U.S. accents? You have covered this in an earlier podcast, but having discovered you chaps late in the day, I dove right in, and I've only heard your last few episodes. Emily, I can only say that you sound like a nice American lady, so I hope that's all right. Yeah.
It is perfectly all right.
Yep. I live in Southampton, which is about 70-ish miles along the coast from West Bay in the south of England. I've spent many a happy holiday in the part of the world where Broadchurch is set. The county of Dorset is beautiful, a beauty that only increases the further west you go. Which sounds really nice.
Yeah.
You talked about the beach featured in the show where they filmed it is all pebbles and shingle. I've trudged the same stretch of beach, and a walk of any distance requires stout shoes and strong legs. Indeed, further on in the area around Golden Cap, highest point on the south coast, it turns into larger pebbles or cobbles between the size of grapefruits and small melons. These clatter and rumble underfoot, so you soon want to stop not only for rest, but to get some peace and quiet. Having said that, there are also some great sandy beaches along the coast, not just necessarily where they have the spectacular cliffs featured in this show. The small huts on the beach are called beach huts. Local knowledge brings you shocking revelations. These are to assist those wealthy enough to own one to enjoy their time on the beach. They tend to be freehold properties, only a few are for rent, and there are strict rules in most cases which don't allow overnight stays. They are not any kind of domicile, more day shelters. In the most sought-after locations on the beaches of this fair isle, the cost of a small shack on the beach will get you a nice family home inland. That sounds yeah. The way the Broadchurch segment ended in and around the murder scene chalet was amazing, and in terms of for the future of these people, extremely constructive. Get out of here, scumbag, and take every single ounce of guilt with you. Punch the air, high fives. Again, I really great analysis of how the citizens of Broadchurch are being constructive and rising above this, disaster.
Yes, and thank you for setting the scene for us as to what it actually looks like in real life. Yeah.
This contrasted wonderfully with the senseless waste of human life in the Sandbrook, Sandbrook, yeah. Mm-hmm. Miss Torchwood turned out to be the calculating demon we all knew she was. Then what redemption for the all-over-the-place police took... what redemption for these all-over-the-place police to take these horrors down. I know what it means, like they're kind of shabby in the first season. Thanks for the podcast. I look forward to return in the third series for Broadchurch. Take care. Kind regards, David.
Thanks, David.
Great email.
Yeah, that was extremely thorough.
Yeah, and, this is the last time we'll be reading emails. I mean, I'll be checking my email every day, but the last time we'll be reading emails, and I feel like that was a healthy info dump about England's beaches.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. This next one comes from Jalola, who has commented on Reddit before. I definitely recognize that username.
Yes.
Hey, Ken and Emily. Me again. Really love the podcast. You two bring in a lot of insight and catch things I missed while watching. I'm looking forward to what you do next. I think you mentioned doing something about Series 1, and that would be awesome. The finale is aging like fine wine in my head, and I'm loving it more the more I think about it. That, to me, is a sign of a good episode. I saw lots of parallels and contrasts throughout the series, and the last minutes of the finale contrasted Joe's departure by taxi with Hardy's. at least his intended departure. Joe was being seen off by everyone who ever mattered to him, albeit in a good riddance tone. Contrast that with Hardy walking alone to his taxi. No one wanted to watch him drive off. It had the same loneliness as Tennant's final scene on Doctor Who. Joe spent the trial hoping to drag the community and their secrets in the mud, where Hardy only tried to do right by Broadchurch, but it failed. At least with Sandbrook, we saw how out of control things were for Hardy in that case. He was overwhelmed with contrasting stories from the Gillespies and Ashworths, so he had no hope of seeing the truth. His marriage was in the dumpster, and his wife's carelessness lost the one piece of evidence they had. Plus, his health had started to decline. It was really satisfying to get that wrapped up and to redeem Hardy to full detective inspector status. I've had a bit of an epiphany about the arc of the trilogy and what's likely to be the driving story in Series 3, but that's for another email. I really wish he or Jalola had explained what they thought the third season is, because I have some thoughts. Again, really enjoy the podcast, and I'm looking forward to more. Cheers from Toronto, Jalola.
Thanks.
Yeah, that'll be it for emails, but there were some damn fine emails.
Yeah, they were quite substantial, and I really liked the this idea of thinking about the taxi and the way they got sent off, and did Hardy really leave?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be back in season 3, but I like to think that Alec Hardy will go see Daisy and move somewhere in between a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too, probably.
Just some location that etches away that the distance between Broadchurch and Sandbrook, which seemed to be quite. It seemed to be at least significant enough where we spent a few scenes doing driving montages, And about season 3, Chris Chibnall had a line where he said that he described it as Series 3 being like a glint in his eye, like something that he's maybe been thinking about longer than he thought about season 2. As a writer, someone who's probably sat down and said here's how it begins, here's how it ends. The way I think about it is, how George R. R. Martin's probably known the end of the of Game of Thrones forever, and he really wants he knows how it ends and knows how to write it, but he found himself meandering in the middle. So which makes me really excited to think about season 3 as something that he absolutely needs to do for himself.
Yeah, I'm excited also.
Yeah. So, without further ado, let's get right into breaking down this episode, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so we return in this episode with the verdict of Joe Miller. It comes pretty quickly that Joe Miller is found not guilty. In that moment, I can't say I was blown back or surprised.
Yeah, no, me either.
Because it was all right, I didn't want to dwell on it because I knew the show wasn't going to let us dwell on it.
Exactly. It's kind of all right, now let's go. Let's see what's happening.
Which is great because I think the show is well aware of that, and they start driving these energies in different places. Yes,
and that's, I think, why they didn't give the verdict at the end of last episode, because if they gave it at the very end of the episode, you dwell on it for a week.
Yeah, so
as we can see with the end of this episode, not to cut you off, the point isn't the verdict.
Yeah. I have to concede that point to you from last week. Yeah, yeah, ending the episode on the cliffhanger was good. In the end, it was a good deal. Something I noted was Judge Sonia. Yeah, Judge Sonia was since this case was so distressing, this court excuses you from all future jury duty. And I'm like, that's a pretty sweet deal.
I was thinking the same thing.
So Alec arrests Claire right on the spot. He does not waste any time.
Yeah, that's pretty badass, not gonna lie.
He brings her straight to Tess, who offers to work with Alec, but he's like, no, I need Miller, which I thought it was interesting, just because you can kind of, she's like, oh, yeah, of course. You can kind of see how, I don't know if jealous is the word, but Tess knows that, he's found his true partner in policing. Definitely not in love, but his Tess knows she's been supplanted.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Mark is asking how to get Joe back in court, and it's either Ben or Jocelyn, but they're talking about how it can only happen with new evidence. And Ellie, everyone's kind of going through their oh shit, what do we do now? But Ellie has had things prepared for a while, it seems. She's changed the locks. She's made it so that Joe can't get to Fred or Tom, and she has officers ready to check out like her house, Lucy's house, and I wrote down like presumably it's Bob, the big policeman who just is just kind of Alec and Ellie's fetch person. Like like we need something done. Go get Bob. So Sharon and Jocelyn are sharing words in like the locker room, and I really liked Sharon's words here. She was saying, "I don't see the nobility in this job. I see a loaded, lopsided game. It's street fighting in wigs," which I particularly like that because it contrasts with Jocelyn's boxing metaphor, which is a much more noble sport than street fighting.
Yeah, well, actually, back to the boxing thing, I seem to recall someone saying, and it has to have been on the Reddit subreddit, but I don't remember what the boxer's name was. Mm-hmm. It was Wally something or other. But basically, right. It was, someone had said, well, he lost his last match or something. So, yeah.
Okay. Dude, yeah, no, I have my stack of notes here. I have every Sea Brigade episode note right here in a stack I could go through and flip, but yeah, we'll just call him Wally.
Wally.
Something I was thinking was whether or not Sharon Bishop would get along with the likes of Jimmy McGill, attorney at law, or Saul Goodman.
Better call Saul.
So Jocelyn retorts by saying, there are winds that help you sleep at night, others that keep you awake. And I wonder, does Sharon care? But,
I don't think she cares.
Yeah.
A person like Jocelyn cares. A person like Sharon, I don't think cares.
Mm-hmm. What happens next is Alec finds Ellie, and this is an awesome scene. He's like, that anger you feel is exactly how I felt for 2 years. And it's something I realized narratively, how Broadchurch went down exactly like Sandbrook.
Yeah.
They found their killer. They went to court. It didn't happen.
Yeah, botched evidence.
But he's like, Ellie's like, don't you dare tell me to let go of this anger. And he's like, oh,
he's
God,
like, nope.
No.
Yeah, he's
I want
like,
you
no.
to stoke it and use it. And that's what I think.
Get it, girl.
That's what I think is great, is Broadchurch knows how we feel, and it channels these emotions into action.
Agreed.
I think this really even happened in season 1, episode 8, where you saw how the case was closing with or without a killer, and both Ellie and Alec went into overdrive, and it was great. So let's see. Alec's like, that fury is fuel. Do something with it. We're going to catch them today. And when Alex said that, that's when I knew it was true. That's when I'm like, oh, you know what? All those predictions about Sandbrook not being figured out this episode, I take it all back.
Yeah.
When Alec Hardy says, we're going to catch those two today, I'm like, okay, yep, you sure are. What happens next is that Joe shows up at Paul's church, and Paul is not having it in such a way that I knew that Paul would deliver for me this time.
Yeah,
like all season long, I've been waiting for Paul to stab Joe in the back, and I'm like, this is the episode where it happens.
Well, I think he's a man he's absolutely reached his limit. He's like, I've given you all this, and you cannot come back here. You can't be serious. Which
is great. Just I like the idea of any clergyman who's just like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
So, I've never seen past season 4 of Doctor Who, but I know you weren't a big fan of Rory in particular, but, Arthur Darvill is awesome as Paul.
Yes. You know what? I don't even think Arthur Darvill is bad as Rory. It's just Rory is he was kind of wet blanketed for me. He was just kind of he's like, oh, I'm sad to go on adventures. It always bummed me out because just he wasn't the adventuring type, and I don't ever want people like that in my Doctor Who shows. Okay. Where are we? Alec and Ellie talk to Claire, who seems most interested in Lee's arrest. When they first sit down, they're like, hey, have you arrested Lee yet? Mm-hmm. And Alec knows better because he thinks ahead, knowing that Claire was probably just trying to send a message to Lee. Yeah, well, seeing them go back into the questioning room, Alec and Ellie, it's so
and
nice.
See them come out, like that, so intense. It's they're good at this.
Yes, they're a refined tool of justice.
Mm-hmm. They've made too many mistakes in the past, and they've learned, and they are ready to do it.
They had practice. They talked to literally everyone who lived in Broadchurch last year.
That's true.
They brought him in, and they're like, "What do you know?
Yeah.
Did you kill Danny?
Did you even look at him?"
Let's see. Claire accuses Alec of raping her and holding her hostage, knowing the accusation would be on tape, and it's strategy to stop the interview.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm going to say all this shit. Alec's going to turn off the tape. It's going to go great.
Mm-hmm.
But
Alec,
Alec is like, keep making accusations. They'll arrest me. Fine. I'm not scared of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Ellie then asks Claire why she had Ricky's phone number, and Claire gets really snippy, and she's like, had a little peek at my phone. Oh, thanks for that, mate. It's really, I really love the actress who plays Claire. It's like,
yeah, she's pretty awesome.
I know.
Eve Miles.
Yeah, it's super cool seeing Claire go full on like evil in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulative is probably the better word.
Yeah.
So we cut to Paul inviting Becca to the church to see Joe and confide in her this plan he has. He's just like, she's like, why did you bring me here? And Paul's like, I needed to tell someone else what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Which doesn't sound at all sinister.
Which is okay. So my next idea, he's like, I need to tell someone else what I'm going to do. Sounds really sinister. So like my first two ideas was, number one, I thought Paul's finally going to talk to Joe, make him confess, and get it on tape secretly. Like you use the Christian angle to be like, okay, Joe, you're found innocent, but you need to confess your sins to get off the hook. And I feel like Joe is enough of a sap to do that. But like that's what I've been thinking all season long, was that Paul was going to do something like that. My second idea was, this is way darker, was that Paul was going to lock the doors, like push over a table with candles on it, and burn the church with Joe inside of it.
Whoa. Like, what's that? Inglourious Bastards, when they torch the movie theater?
Yeah. I was like, that was my second idea, but I didn't think it very plausible, because that's not really Paul's alley.
No.
It's something funny that I couldn't stop but think about, was that, so in our version of Broadchurch, as seen on TV, Paul and Becca, as far as we know, are in a relationship, and this confiding in her about the secret plan to get Joe makes sense when you think about it, as like Paul and Becca are in a relationship. But in the version of Broadchurch as not seen on TV, if you look at the bonus scenes where Becca betrays Paul's trust and tells Beth that Paul was seeing Joe Miller in court, and when there's also a bonus scene where Paul's like, that was a huge violation of trust, we're over. It's weird that this scene's written in, because
true,
that would mean Paul is forgiving Becca. So it's just like,
true. This
whole thing is weird, and the Paul and Becca's relationship presence almost seems like, I don't know, because who else was Paul going to say that to? We needed we needed somebody for Paul to leave us hanging on, like knowing that Paul was going to do something dark. Was like, yeah. Anyways, the really weird thing is, so Paul says, like, I needed to tell someone else what I was going to do. I came up with all these weird theories, and then the theories were reinforced by the very next scene, which is Mark telling Beth how they have to take justice into their own hands. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck.
Yeah, see, like, that, I didn't think that they were going to go the route of, like, because a lot of the predictions on, like, the subreddit would be, like, the season will end with Joe's murder. They'll find him on the beach or whatever. And I didn't think the show was going to go that route. And then we saw, them saying stuff like that. And I was like, okay, maybe we are.
Yeah, maybe. And, Beth having earlier said she wanted to kill Joe, but also very emotional at that time.
Of course.
So we're back at the interrogation room, and rather right outside of it, because Alec and Ellie are wound up and frustrated. Alec is particularly wound up, and Alec does not notice that Ellie is breaking the case right in front of him. Ellie's sitting there looking at receipts, and she's like, yo, Alec, we really need photos of the Ashworth house pronto. Get me Tess. And he's like, Miller, you're bothering me. And Alec gets a call from not from Lee Ashworth. Alec gets a call that Lee Ashworth just broke into his house, and he's looking for the pendant. So, they go arrest Lee Ashworth. And then Joe is kidnapped by Mark and Nige in what is maybe my favorite scene of the season.
Definitely the best use of Nige in the series.
Yeah, because, like, Nige has always been creepy, but for a force of evil or unknown. Yeah. And here I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad Mark has a creepy friend like Nige.
Yes.
Because when the two of them show up at the church doors, I'm like, they kind of got this Boondock Sainty thing where they're like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get this guy. And I thought I thought they were
Mr.
gonna.
Numbers and oh, sorry,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Continue.
I thought they were gonna beat the shit out of him right there for some reason, but
Me too. Me too.
what were you saying?
I was saying like Mr. Numbers and Mr. Wrench from Fargo.
Yeah, it was. I understand. I believe it was Tanisha was saying that she felt bad for Joe. I think the actor who plays Joe did a really good job of just looking like someone who feared for their life.
Yes, he's a really he really made the change well from normal husband father to murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't in like apparently the way that the actor from Grace Point did it was like it went from like basically you flip the switch and like all he was missing was the white van and the mustache for to be like a creepy child molester. Whereas I think that this actor has balanced more. He hasn't like ever gotten cartoonish.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, wait. No, I'm rebounding. I'm good.
Good.
So what happens next is Sharon is on the phone with somebody, and she's like, "Yeah, of course I'm happy," and she's looking Beth right in the eye, and nothing comes of that this season. But
That's interesting.
It's the type of thing where I'm like, when she's like, "Yeah, of course I'm happy," and she's looking right into the the victim's mother's eyes, it's like, I doubt it. Sharon, this is the scene where I think we are getting confirmation that Sharon knows, not that she did wrong, but that the wrong thing happened, and I think she can relate to Beth in more ways than because each of them has a son that has been done wrong by the justice system.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of Sharon's fault that Danny was done wrong by the justice system.
Yes,
so,
yeah. It's
I mean, look, Joe got a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a better defense than the prosecution gave. So
Yeah.
he wasn't done wrong by the justice system, but justice wasn't served.
It's the type of thing where this episode does a good job at making me reconsider Sharon after a whole season of it being really hard to reconsider Sharon. But as soon as the trial is over, it's like, okay, let's see what Sharon has. The next thing that happens is that Maggie finds Jocelyn like at this. It's a really crazy scene where it's a dry harbor, like a harbor that's had boats in it, but the water has receded.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but that's good spotting.
Yeah. And Maggie brings Jocelyn straight gin, which they drink straight. So these are some like crazy hardcore old lesbians. They're just like, let's just drink some gin.
Badass bitches.
They are. I kind of love them.
I love them too.
And they're sitting in front of this dried up harbor, and they're just boats kind of tilted over, sitting on sand, and it's a really interesting shot. And Maggie's it pairs really well with Maggie talking about how, look, like I never said being back in the world would be painless, and I came to think about how season 2 is Jocelyn waking up from that hut and realizing happiness again, but also realizing that life is hard. And I don't know, I really like Broadchurch kind of just delivering interesting themes about friends and family at times,
Agreed. I think that's one of the best things that it offers because there are the mysteries, but it's also the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think not enough shows just sit down and say like, all right, let's talk about how like love and family is complicated and how like secrets happen and friends and shit. Like it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like this a lot. Tess proves herself handy by getting Ellie the photos she needed.
Mm-hmm.
Tess comes through, like she gets the photos done.
Yeah. And
then Ellie's like, okay, yo, Alec, check this shit out. These receipts prove that the floor was changed. And Alec finally realizes, oh my god, Millard, like you did it.
Holla.
So they confront Lee with this evidence, which proves that the floorboards were switched the weekend of the murder. Because he bought oak boards. He bought dark oak boards, or sorry, not dark oak. He bought light oak boards meant for a church. And he bought, like this, let's say he bought like 20 boards on Saturday night to fix this church. And then he had to buy 20 oak boards on like Monday morning. So like the evidence just points to like something went down on this floor because before that weekend the Ashworths had dark oak floors, and after that weekend they had light oak floors. So it's just like it's a really good thing, and they hinted at it earlier in the season when
she touches the floor.
Yeah, like she's soaking in and memorizing that room, which is cool. Yeah. While they're in the room, and Alec puts down the pendant for Lee to look at. I noticed that Ellie calls Alec D.I. Hardy, and I wonder if this was just from old habit, or like did he ever lose his rank? Has he always been D.I. Hardy, even when he was just like teaching people and not really on the job? Or
well, even on the stand when Sharon speaks to, she refers to them as D.I. Hardy and D.S. Miller. I think so. I think that they've always had
their rank still.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
But in either way, it's exciting to see Alec back in his game.
Yes.
Back in the same back where he belongs, which is doing work and being in that office. So Alec's like, this pendant came from your wife. It proves Pippa was in your car the night she died, and this is the missing piece of evidence that nearly killed me, and now I've got it. And it makes me really happy.
Same.
But he also gives this really pessimistic speech about how, like, luckily, ultimately, everyone's alone. So you should just set the record straight because we can all get released from this. You know, no one's coming to help you. Your wife betrayed you. We're all lonely. And it's just like, geez.
Yeah, that's Alec Hardy in a nutshell. He's going all Rust Cole on us.
But it works because Lee gives in and tells the story what happened that night. So what happens is Gary Thorpe was stalking Lisa. We could presume that Lisa was in the Gillespie side of the house.
Yes.
So Lisa and Pippa hide out at Lee's place, and Lee gives Gary Thorpe a good punch in the face. Like, leave Lisa alone. How many times do we have to do this? And he bleeds on his shirt. He's like, he got a bit of a nosebleed, poor sod. Which I really liked. I really liked that line. So what happens is Lisa's a bit turned on by Lee's act of violence, and they do it. And Alec's like, you did have sex with Lisa. You denied it all along. What happened next? You killed her, right? And I'm like, Jesus, Alec. A little bit more nuance.
Nuance is not his strong suit.
Yeah, but at this point, is Lee crying? Because in the script, it said sobs. Lee continues, you have no idea what happened. I can't remember if Lee was crying in front of Alec.
I don't know if he's sobbing, but I think that there are like tears in his eyes.
Okay. So what happens is Ricky comes home from the wedding. We could presume that he comes in the Gillespie side, then uses the back gate to come to the back of the Ashworth house. And he watches for 15 minutes, apparently, Lee and Lisa having sex, which is fucked up. Then he confronts them, and Lisa calls him a bastard and says that he's only jealous because she fucked Lee instead of Ricky. Ricky goes off, tackling Lisa, and he's like, call me a bastard again. Do it. And he's slamming her against the floor until a death blow. Like he slams her head so hard that her skull fractures or something. And it's all I wrote down was that Ricky is the grossest person, period. Like, he is by far the worst person in this entire conspiracy. Like, and what's sooner worse is that he's just killed his niece, and he suddenly realizes that he has the advantage over Lee Ashworth because he says, your DNA is on Lisa, it's inside Lisa, and her blood is on your floor. So you can't pin this on me, because if you try to, I'll pin this all on you. And it's just really super fucked up.
Yes.
And I have to say, I feel better knowing that Lee did not kill Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not great. So what happens next is that Claire comes home to tell Lee that she's pregnant. Ricky finds her and, tells Claire to give Pippa this medicine. Give Pippa this. I've told her it's medicine. I'll take care of her in the morning. So presumably, Ricky's plan at this point is, we'll just bury Lisa, and we'll pretend this never happened. I'll explain things to Pippa, and I don't know if the plan is to put this behind them, but also Ricky just fucking told Claire to give his daughter whiskey with roofies in it.
Yup.
And Lee, to his credit, at this point, tries to stop Claire from poisoning Pippa. Says, we should go to the police. And it's Claire. Claire's the one who's like, did you have sex with her? And, like, she's the one who goes and talks to Pippa and makes the decision that, Pippa heard you and Lisa having sex. Pippa thinks you killed Lisa. Pippa needs to go. She needs to be drugged and you need to kill her. It's like, true, Lee is the one who does smother her, but Claire is as much as a Claire is as much as a filthy mastermind as Ricky is.
Absolutely.
And Pippa, poor honest girl, I think gets the worst end of the night's deal, with Lisa in close second for being bludgeoned to death by your gross, pervy uncle. It's
it was. I felt so bad for her because she was so cute and like she trusted Claire so much.
Yeah.
And Claire just, no.
Yeah. Lee suffocates Pippa, who I think best case scenario wasn't even conscious for it if the roofies took hold.
It's true.
I'm trying to be optimistic, which it's not good.
No.
Claire then brings Ricky to where the body was dumped, and tells him that the Rohypnol killed Pippa. And Ricky, I believe, buys this completely, and feels that like this is what he deserves. This is his punishment.
Yeah.
This is also, I have to say, another sign of Lee not being. Lee chooses the Bluebell field to bury the body or to dump the body because that's where they played tag. Like, he's still a murderer and he still cheated on his wife. But like, there are, I feel happy in the reaffirmation that Lee Ashworth wasn't a pervy double murderer mastermind. I don't know. Am I on the wrong track? Do you know what I'm coming from, at least?
No, I do understand. Part of me actually was like, not happy, but I think it's interesting that Lee did end up killing Pippa because it means that he wasn't completely innocent. It means that Hardy wasn't completely wrong. However, Lee did some wrong things. Lee was cheating on his wife. But I feel like Lee would not have killed Pippa on his own. I think it was Claire's influence totally.
Yeah.
But
I think if Claire hadn't shown up, Lee might have called the police. I'm not sure, but I
don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I admit when I think about it, I don't think that Lee would get off. I think Lee would probably be found guilty of Lisa's murder because all of the DNA would be there, and I think the jury would be inclined to think that he would kill her. But rather, I don't think the jury would buy that Ricky came home and killed his niece. Like, I don't,
really?
Oh, and I don't know. Would Claire stand up for Lee? I don't know. Like I don't know what would have happened if Lee just picked up the phone and called the police right after Ricky is like, I'm gonna go get the van. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like that. Why would a guilty man call the police?
Okay. And yeah, it's just it's fucked. It's
Also, I feel terrible for Kate in this situation because her husband was the murderer, or precipitated the murders in the first place.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see Kate Gillespie again, but rest assured, she's not going to be in a happier place after all of this.
No. And she is another one in now the line of women with murderous husbands.
Yeah. And I don't know, because do you remember the whole reason that she held on to the estate was she's waiting for Lisa to come home? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's really sad. Honestly, it's horrible what happened to Lisa. Horrible. And that scene of them, like, emptying get the grave, and, it's horrible. But I also do really like that they went the route of she's actually dead. The missing girl was actually dead and wasn't alive.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the cliche that happens in so many shows.
Mm-hmm. And I actually think the graveyard burial that works. Mm-hmm. I think Dexter did that in an episode, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's the type of thing, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, of course. Why would anyone dig underneath a grave for, I don't know. Especially when it appears that Ricky is in the construction business of some sort. So
yeah.
It's screwed up. Anyways, Claire threatens Ricky, holding the hip flask as evidence against him for his silence, which, it makes tons of sense. We know Claire is this type of person where she took the hip flask as evidence, she stole the pendant as evidence. Like, Claire is as involved as anyone in making sure that everyone stays silent. Mm-hmm. And what I just thought was that, do you remember when Claire told Lee, we need a plan? And he's like, we had a plan and you screwed it up? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that whatever Alec did to get Claire to testify against Lee, like, that was her screwing the plan up.
Yeah,
like
it has to be.
The pact between Lee, Claire, and Ricky was, like, jeopardized by Claire testifying against Lee, but also Claire stopped that case from truly happening by stealing the pendant. So she kind of corrected things.
That's true.
But also, I don't know. Something I was wondering was, do you think Ricky ever realized the Rohypnol didn't kill Pippa?
Oh.
Because they found Lee's DNA on the pillow that suffocated her. But it just makes me...
God, that's right.
And it makes me wonder if, as the trial went on, Ricky became aware as to what happened.
Maybe because he did send that bluebell to Claire.
Yeah, and when Ricky beat Lee up, was it because he had sex with Lisa, or was it because he thought Lee killed Pippa? It's like, I don't know.
That's true.
I really don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get little tidbits of information about Sandbrook next season. Mm-hmm. I just want Tess to show up and be like, yo, the trial went well, everyone went to jail. I just want something like that to happen. Because it's a really damn good mystery. Mm-hmm. Sandbrook's a really fine mystery.
It really was.
Anyways, when Ricky's in custody, he tries to no comment his way out of this, and Alec really doesn't have it. And he's like, I sympathize with you, like, as a father, like, Daisy and Pippa were the same age, and I thought I couldn't let you down. And Alec's sympathy actually gets Ricky to talk, which is nice. Like, Alec uses this tactic I don't think he tries very often.
Yeah, like the human connection tactic.
Human connection was exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, that's not...
Oh, really?
That's not Alec's... that's not the card up his sleeve. How about I talk to the person as a person and try to sympathize with them? And he admits to where Elise's body is, and hopefully that gives the other families some justice. And I just realized, like, holy shit, like, Ricky Gillespie's brother is going to have a fucking field day, huh? Like, my brother killed my daughter.
Yeah. Although, I mean, that guy might have been shady anyway, because she didn't use the father's last name. Like, she didn't like him.
Yeah. We still have to wonder what the hell's up with that, you know? Let's see. Yeah, so we find out where Elise's body is, and all I write down here is that Ricky is an even worse person than we could ever have imagined, because he also he treated Alec like shit, knowing full well that he never told Alec the truth about what happened. You know, he's like,
that is true. Get
out of this town. You fucked up my daughter's killer is out there. And I'm like, if you because, like, in all honesty, you should believe that you are your own daughter's killer for giving her Rohypnol.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Lee, Claire, and Ricky are arrested, and Alec feels like he's done his penance, and he reflects on the damage done, like how many lives are ruined by this, and it really is a lot. And Ellie's about to go meet Beth, but she stops before going to say, I think you're wrong, by the way, what you said to Lee. We're not all alone. And Alec just says, I hope you're right about that. And it's like this really sweet moment, I think. Like,
yeah.
There is some optimism in Broadchurch. At the end of every season, there's some optimism.
Agreed.
Like the torch lighting scene at the beach, and now this kind of moment. Sharon then meets Jocelyn on request. Jocelyn's pitching a partnership idea, and Sharon doesn't think it would work. And, at first she's, like, very mean about it. Like, what? Why would I ever want to work with you? And the more Jocelyn argues for it, it kind of seems like Sharon's shift is, like, it wouldn't work because it would be awkward. Like, that's the tone I'm getting. And then Jocelyn changes her mind by saying, like, look, here's a whole stack of information that shows how Jonah Bishop, can appeal for his case. And Sharon's like, you kept that even though you don't like me? And Jocelyn says, I don't have to like you. I just have to believe in you. And in that moment, I thought Jocelyn was a vehicle for the audience, where it's like, if we do this next season, if we get down to Jonah's appeal, we don't have to like Sharon to believe that Jonah Bishop deserves to get out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you at some points where, like, you said before that you find it hard to care because we don't really know the details, but maybe we will come to start liking this Shona, the Jonah Sharon thing.
Maybe. Do you think they're coming back next year?
Oh, I definitely. Unless the only way I don't think we see Sharon and Jonah is if we don't see Jocelyn, because I think Jocelyn's storyline in the future is connected to, let's go do this. Me, Sharon, let's go get Jonah out of jail.
True, but I don't know. I guess what gets harder as this show goes on is that, like, you're going to want to expand the cast for season 3, but then you don't want to then waste your time talking about Sharon and Jonah, who really, again, don't matter.
No. I don't think, but who knows? They can make that interesting. If we can get down into the details about what the hell happened.
It's true.
And maybe we'll care about what happened to Jonah. The other thing is, it could just kind of happen in the background. It can happen in such a way, the way Paul and Becca happened this season.
That's true. That's very true.
In total, we maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't know. That's true. Just an idea.
That's very true.
Okay, what happens next? Oh my god, what happens next is what I wrote down on the piece of paper. That's like my go-to. It's not a very good, what would be the word, segue? I think what happens next might be like the I don't know. If there were a subtitle to the Sea Brigade, it'd be like, the Sea Brigade, what happens next is...
It's fine.
Yeah. But what happens next is that... it's been called Joe's second trial by the community, and I really like that.
I like it too.
Paul, Mark, and Nige take Joe into the hut where Danny was murdered. And Beth sits at the table as the judge. And Ellie stands present like a bailiff.
Yeah.
And I believe it's Beth who was saying this. Like, you could have been a decent human being and faced your punishment.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I saying? You're not that. You could have never been a decent person. Like, the one chance you had of doing this right was by pleading guilty. So, when you die, no one will mourn for you.
That was cold.
We could kill you here, dump your body on the beach, and no one would care, no one would notice, but we're better than you. We all get to live, but you have no life yet. You have no life left, not here. And it's like, oh.
That was awesome. And that's why Beth is a great character.
Yeah, because when you think about it, this is in her head, maybe been rehearsed a little, but she's looking at her son's killer and not trembling. She's like, I am the one with the cards in my hand. I am the one who's going to make this happen. You know, she is intense and it's beautiful.
Yes.
Anyway, so Beth just finishes up saying, you have no more life here. Like, you're not going to come back to this town. And Joe just says, like, but I've been found innocent. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy?
He is. He's completely lost it.
Do you think this family gives a shit? Like,
he has completely lost it.
Yeah, and that breaks Ellie's silence too, where she's just like, "Oh, shut the fuck up!" Like, you heard what she said. You're leaving. You're not coming back, and you're never seeing your children again. And at this point, Joe is like freaking me out. Like, Joe starts to look seriously angry.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah. It is fucked because it's just like, oh my god.
Well,
like,
we know he has a quick temper.
Yeah. So, like, I was wondering if someone was going to have to kill Joe in self-defense. Which, honestly, I wouldn't have a problem with either, but, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. And Ellie lays this down, like, if you try to see your children again, I will kill you, and I will face the consequences for it. And, like,
yeah.
I believed her in that moment. I'm like, I think you would.
I think she would, too.
Yeah. Let's see. Paul has it arranged for Joe to find a halfway home in Sheffield. And I saw some comments on Reddit that were like, great, someone like Joe Miller is exactly what Sheffield needs, which is a joke that goes over my head because I have no idea what that neighborhood's like. But
it's not like it's a city. It's, I don't know all that much about it. It's usually used kind of as a punchline.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I lost my place in the notes. All right, there's Sheffield. Oh, they walk Joe to the taxi, and he's like, "Do you think you could just banish me?" And Mark's like, "Yeah, we're pretty sure we can."
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And Tom sees him off, which is really cool because just to make extra sure he knows that his children don't care.
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, which takes a lot of strength for Tom just to be like...
I was just going to say, I like that Tom had the strength to do that.
Yeah, there's my dad, and this is the last time I'm going to see him. If all goes according to plan. So, yeah. And the one note I had here was like, why is Becca here? Why is Maggie here? Why is Ollie here? And I wrote, okay, this is neighborhood strength. This is just them sending the message that, Joe, you have no friends here. You can't hide out at the Trader's Hotel. You can't go to the papers. You can't do shit, you know?
Yeah.
The media's against you. Everyone with power in Broadchurch is against you. So.
Yeah, and it was a nice moment of reunification for the town.
Yeah, I was just thinking, that shot looks exactly like the promotional stills where every character is on the same location at the same time. So.
That's true.
Yeah. So, that's it. Joe Miller is leaving town, and then Alec is leaving Broadchurch, and he's saying goodbye to Ellie, and he says, I couldn't have done this without you. And she's like, no, you couldn't, and you didn't. which is, it's cool.
Love her.
Ellie just having some attitude, and then Alec is, he's deciding he's going to try to move close to home to be near Daisy, who I hope we see a lot more of in the future.
Me too. I liked her.
Yeah. This part made me a little bummed out, where Alec's about to leave, and Ellie sticks out her hand, and he's like, handshake? And she's like, yeah, not hugging you. I know it's like kind of sweet because that's just their relationship, but I'm like, oh.
I think she's sad that he's leaving. She can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Because he's her friend.
Yeah. Do you think like she would cry if they hugged? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think she's trying to be tough.
Mm-hmm. And he's just like, look after yourself. Mm-hmm. Which is really, yeah. Then the Latimers and Millers have a lunch at the beach where Danny was killed, or where he was placed, and it's a little weird, but I understand they need to make new memories.
Yeah, it's the idea of like reclaiming it.
Yeah, that's something that was touched on earlier, was that like every Latimer Miller memory has been tainted by Joe, so they need to make new memories. Mm-hmm. It was something I didn't notice in the show, but in the script I noticed that Fred does this thing that like 2-3-year-olds do, which is they go, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's so cute.
And Ellie is just like, have you said hello to everyone yet? Like, or I don't know who says that, but the script, I was like, oh, I had no idea how cute Fred was.
Yeah, Fred's adorable.
He's just a little curly-haired monster.
He's adorbs. Also, I like something that I thought was really funny about them having the picnic on the beach is like when Olivia Colman and David Tennant were on the Graham Norton show, he was showing them fan art of like Ellie and Alec getting married on the beach, and David Tennant's like, "Oh, of course they would get married where they met, where they found the murdered boy's body." And Graham Norton was like, "Yeah, it's their beach."
Man, I'm gonna rewatch that. I've seen some cool clips coming out of Graham Norton where it's just like Mark Ruffalo and Nicki Minaj chilling out and having a good time.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah. Nicki Minaj, too, is a person who, like, I don't really like her music that much, but whenever she's being herself, like, I saw this show, maybe it was a documentary or a movie, where she was, like, talking to her grandmother in Queens, and they were playing poker. It was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So down to earth. Anyways, Nicki Minaj cast for a later date. Alec arrives at his taxi, and the cabbie driver simply asks, "Where to then, sir?" And it's really cool because it's just like, we don't know where Alec Hardy's going. The show has a chance to, like, we can take Alec Hardy anywhere we need to. Wherever crime calls, Alec Hardy will go.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the ending of the movie Zero Dark 30. Did you see it?
I did. I don't remember it that well, but go on.
Okay, so it ends basically with Jessica Chastain's killer has completed the mission. They've eliminated Osama bin Laden, and she's dedicated 10 years of her life to this. And she's in the aircraft on, after the mission is finished. And the pilot says to her, "Where to?" And she just kind of stares out the window and starts to cry because, she doesn't know where she's supposed to go now because she's dedicated so much of her life to this one task, and now it's done and it's over. And she doesn't have anything else. Mm-hmm. And whereas I think there are similar tones here where Hardy's put so much of his time and his effort into the Broadchurch case and the Sandbrook case, living in Broadchurch. But there's also this kind of hope in that he can go anywhere, and he does have his family. But a part of me does wonder if he'll end up not really going anywhere.
Yeah, so I would like Alec to get a new place.
I like the Sea Hut.
So the thing is, he has 2 homes in Broadchurch, and I think he needs to liquidate those and get a new place. My personal hope when I thought about it was that Broadchurch would do a time shift akin to True Detective, and that more time than like the 9 months between series 1 and series 2. Something more like 2 or 3 years, where because I'd like the town. Like, the town is in this growth period, but I'd like to move forward and maybe see, like... Oh. Like, my thought would be, like, the next time Alec comes into town... Like, okay, here's the thing. Like, Alec does move out. He gets to have a life with Daisy, and But like when he stumbles on like this new case, he comes back to Broadchurch and he's like, Miller, and like at this point, like she's the DI of the Broadchurch thing, and I don't know, she gets roped in. Like Broadchurch has been really quiet ever since he left, and then he comes back and is like, new case.
I'd like that a lot.
Do you see what I mean? How that would be kind of like...
I would.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Like, and just like... Because the tone of it would be like one last time.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
Thanks. Hey, Chris, Jimmo, if you're listening...
Do the time jump.
I'm graduating this year with a degree in writing and English, and... not that I have any practice in writing fiction, but nobody says I can't. So I have a LinkedIn. If you're interested, hit me up. I'd love to write Broadchurch Series 3. So yeah, and then
that was convincing.
And then podcast about it. Yeah. Wait, do you think he'll get it? Do you think he's listening right now?
That would be kind of insane.
Yeah.
I feel like no, but that would be crazy.
Yeah. I had this really dorky idea about what to do on the last episode of the Sea Brigade podcast where I would fake a Skype call between me and David Tennant. But there exists no real good like David Tennant soundboard. Not with the sounds that I would need, which are like things like, oh, hello, I'm David Tennant, or stuff like that. Like, the best you could do is, like, a 10th Doctor soundboard, and that's not the show.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I have to go right now. Bye. Yeah, I don't know. We ended up not doing that, which is pretty all right.
Yeah.
Instead, we're like 1 hour and 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And I think we'll definitely have the space to fit it in.
Cool.
Because there was like something like 58 megabytes left in my podcast plan.
All right.
So I think we'll call this an episode of the Sea Brigade.
Yeah. So long for now.
Yeah. So the thank you section is going to be a little bit different because first of all, I realized I was pronouncing this man's name wrong all along. His last name is Kevin MacLeod.
Oh my lord.
And I've been saying like Kevin MacLeod.
What does his name spell like?
MacLeod.
Uh-huh.
Can you see how LEOD looks like?
Yeah.
Weird?
Yep.
Maybe it's not even MAC. Maybe MC. Anyways, I only knew about that because he was interviewed by Kickstarter. He had a Kickstarter project done about him.
Uh-huh.
Because he's like the #1 used free musician in the world, and it's just like, movie like the AAA movies like Hugo use his music as well as like YouTubers. But
wow,
the only payment you have to give the guy is saying his name, giving him credit. So, Kevin MacLeod's Beach Party has been the theme song of the Sea Brigade, and I don't think that's going to change even when like I'm doing Twin Peaks or we're going to do True Detective. Whatever we do, I think we're going to open up with that
Beach Party,
that little reggae music and the seagulls, because that just it makes
someone once told me time is a flat beach ball.
Yeah. I have so much fun listening to that opening every time. But
yeah.
The ending music is going to be a little bit different.
It is.
And, I won't spoil it, but it will play when the time's right.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I don't know the next time we're going to do a proper Sea Brigade Broadchurch podcast, but we will return.
Yes.
You can bet your bottom dollar that whenever Series 3 comes out, we will be doing a full-on podcast again.
Absolutely.
But, for the Series 1 podcast, they'll just kind of come out freely on whatever schedule I can produce them at, because, if I were podcasting for a living, I would definitely have, I would have to produce content every week, but I'm kind of looking forward to, like, just taking a little bit of a break. But the community's been great. It's honestly been life-changing to be like the center of podcast fan adoration, where I've for so long been the fan of podcasts, not the person producing them. And to be the person like receiving like, oh, thank you for doing this. I love the show. Like, it feels really great. And
yeah, and to give kind of another opinion on it, I've never been a podcast person, really. I don't really dedicatedly listen to podcasts, but now that I am helping make one, I'm much more inclined, I think, to find podcasts for the shows that I like.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm glad because like I think I've tried 1,000 times to be like, you should go listen to Boris Gorvis and Sword, and
yeah, I'm always like, eh.
But like,
yeah.
So thank you so much. I can't say how much the podcast has grown. Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
I used to be like, oh my god, we had 50 downloads this week, and guys, we're going to top 1,000 downloads in February. Like,
really? Wow.
Like, there's yeah, in February alone, over 1,000 podcast, like 1,000, like over 1,000 downloads of episodes, and like it's
wow.
We peaked at like 92 on the day we released the reaction episode. Cool. It's been bananas. It's been great.
Awesome.
You guys fill me with such I don't know, such great stuff. Feel free to send in emails, and like, if I end up getting like another like 6 emails, I'll surely release like a little snippet of like a fan email podcast or something like that. Definitely send in your ideas about what to do next. Like I said, Twin Peaks Series 1. Oh, what was that David Tennant show?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, The Escape Artist. Yeah, I have plenty of ideas for what to do next, but send in your, feedback. We'll see what's up. And I think we're going to stay the Sea Brigade, even if we start covering different shows. Like, I think it makes sense to keep the audience you have and move on. So, it's been a really fun ride, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So,
same.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. So, I don't know. Whatever happens next, I'll be there, and I hope you're there, and I don't know, I'll see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.